All right. Hello, once again. I am back. Spending a lot of time working on a workshop. This weekend, we are going to be sponsoring Hackett Brown up in at Brown University in Providence, Rhode Island. So I'll be taking a little road trip with our social media manager, and we have some other engineers that are going to be on site for 2 days of hacking and fun. So we are going to be bringing our Stitch challenge. So we'll be giving out $500 in Amazon gift cards to the team that best uses MongoDB Stitch. And we will also be presenting a workshop. So I've been working on putting together a workshop based on what we've done here with Pickstream. So I did some UI modifications. I changed the way that we upload photos. You can now add a caption and hopefully we'll be able to put that out to everybody soon, but we're kind of testing the waters with it this weekend, and we're going to see how well it does. Because I've been working on all of that, I haven't really had time to come up with anything to code. So I thought this would be a good time to go over a feature that's new to Stitch. Uh, it's in beta currently, but it's Stitch hosting. So I've run out of time a lot before we get to do this, and so we write these applications, but we don't really put them anywhere. Like I'm constantly running them on the local host. So if you need a place to host your static files, have your website, you can now do that inside Stitch, and um, it's really pretty easy to do. So let's go ahead and dive into that. I've found an app that I've yet to publish the hosting, and so we'll take a look at that and we'll go into again we'll start off looking at the Stitch documentation. So you can always go to docs.mongodb.com/stitch, and this is going to give you pretty much everything. The feature that we're going to look at today is this hosting. You can see it's currently in beta. And so we'll just go to the overview here. But yeah, Stitch hosting allows you to host, manage, and serve your application static media and document files. You can use hosting to store individual pieces of content or to upload and serve your entire client application. So that's what we're looking to do today. So we've got some content. The hosting domain is going to be our Stitch ID, and so we've copied that out before. That's how we connect our applications to Stitch. So that's no surprise there. But by default, you get the domain, whatever your Stitch ID is, .mongodbstitch.com. And you can use a custom domain. I've done that with Pickstream. So like if we go to pickstream.itsadrian.com, so that's my domain name. The application is there, and that is the old version, not the one that I'm using. I don't know who Gary Taylor is, but hello. That's the old version that I'm using. The new one is somewhere else, and it doesn't use Google authentication. So if you see login, we got Google authentication. I put in just to make it a little easier. We're doing username and password, but you can put on a custom domain, so that's cool. Let's go back to over here. Resource paths, things like that. But what does it take to get this up and running? So I've already, well, let's talk about. So here is an app that I created. Oh, and I pulled it out. That's fun. So this is TinyAuth. This is an app that I wrote to kind of show how you log in with three different types of with authentication. So it's got Google authentication, it's got Facebook authentication, it's got email authentication. But right now it's not currently hosted anywhere. So let's change that. And you can find that by going to my GitHub, which is Adrian, and then /tiny-auth. So let's go. I've already logged into my Atlas cluster, and I'm on the TinyAuth project that I have created here. And if we go to Stitch Apps, we'll see that there is a TinyAuth app. And we'll wait for it to load. Dun, 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 dun. So here's our Stitch admin console. on the welcome screen. We're going to go over here to on the left-hand side, and you will see hosting, currently in beta. And to enable it, you just click the button. And so that's going to spin up some things. And as you can see, here is my Stitch app ID, mongodb.stitch. So if we were to go to this right now, there's only one file in there. Oh, too soon. It still spins up some things. So we'll come back to that. But right now you can see there's only one file. It's index.html. If we go over into the settings, we've got the domain here again. Here's where you can enable a custom domain if you so choose, and that's not too bad. You can enable it. You put in the custom domains. We would say like tinyauth.itsadrian.com, and I could save. You can choose a custom 404 page if you like, but whenever you save, it's going to ask you to do a couple things. So it's thinking about it. So you have to verify the domain name. So it's going to ask you to do two CNAMEs. So you need to put in this CNAME, and then you'll need to put in a CNAME pointing this to your Stitch domain. And that's really all it takes. If you typo something in the domain, it might take you a little longer to get that propagated, but I'm going to go ahead and disable it because I'm not really interested in a custom domain at this point. So let's go back over to the files. Let's see if this is ready. Still can't be reached. All right, well, domain things, right? So how do you get files into that? So there's really two major ways. You can use the UI here, and so you can upload files manually. You can create a folder, images, and so the folder appears. There's different actions. I don't want this, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to delete it. So I'm going to delete that folder. So you could, one by one, upload your files into here. Whenever I do it, I like to use the Stitch CLI. So I haven't talked a lot about that, but the CLI allows you to download kind of a JSON and JavaScript representation in folders of your Stitch app. And so for all of the applications that I publish, I export a template version of my app. So if anybody wants to quickly spin up the app that I just created, they can use the template and start a new one. But we'll have to do it a little bit different than that. So let's see, is there anything else out here? So we could upload everything individually, but we're not going to do that because a lot of times you're using some kind of build process. So you have like npm run build. So I use create react app a lot, and so I use the build. So let's go over and look at my app. So this is kind of what we have right here. Here are my deploy and export scripts that use the CLI. And then I have a Stitch app, so that's the template version of the Stitch app. And then I have Web UI, which is the Create React app. And so this is what a lot of my repos look like. So I kind of make sure I put everything in there. Let me take a look. Let me go open up code for this, so we can kind of look at what's going on. All right, it opened in the right window. That's great. So let's make this bigger. All right. So we've got our export script. So I store everything in a .m file. And if you look in the repo, you can see that kind of give you some instructions. So here's where we would go to install the instructions for installing the Stitch CLI. You can download it, or you can use npm to install it. So you can just do npm install -g mongodb stitch CLI. So there's that. So that's a good link there. And then also you're going to need to generate an API key for Atlas. And so this link will take you to walk you through how you do that over here on generating API keys. And I take that information and I put it in a .m file that I've created. So it holds my API key, which I'm not going to show you. Also my Stitch username. So mine, it just happens to be adrian.howard. And then also my Stitch app ID. And that's all the pieces of information that I need to run these commands. And so if we go back over here and look, I'm just doing something very simple. I script this out because it's a few steps, and whenever I run this, it makes it pretty fast. But you want to log in with the Stitch client. So here it is pulling this information after I source the M file. I'm exporting the project. So I'm doing something here where I'm exporting it to one location and I'm copying it over so that way the Git history looks right. So like if something's deleted or something's added, it's captured in Git. So uh, yeah. So I'm making sure there's no temp file. I'm doing an export, and this is where I'm choosing as template. So it's only pulling out the template, and I'm telling it where to output, and then I'm copying that over into Stitch app, and I'm removing the template and then logging out. And so that's really it for the export. And this is not really helpful for what we're wanting to do today, so we'll have to kind of put up a different one. Okay, and so if we look at the deploy, um, it's doing basically the same thing. We're sourcing my .env, we're logging into Stitch, we're importing from the specified directory with a strategy replace. So this is for when you are using a template, you got to use a strategy replace, and then we're just logging out. So this is great for if you are importing and exporting templates, but that's not what we're going to be doing today. So we need to create a new script. But first, uh, let's look at, I left it over here. So inside, and I think I can show you in here, inside our package JSON, because we're using a Create React app, we have all of these React scripts. And so we do have a build function, and that will build a version of our application, and it will store all those files inside the build folder. So typically what we would do, or what I do, is I first make sure that I run that. So I'm going to go into the web UI folder. I'm going to do npm run build. And so what that's going to do is run that script. It's going to do some Webpack stuff, some Babel stuff. It's going to create some files for us and put it inside a build folder. Still creating, so we can kind of see what that is. Like I see it show up over there. I swear, I feel like we're constantly waiting on npm. So while we're waiting on that, let's go ahead and create a new file in here. Did I put it in the right place? That did not go in the right place. I need to be in this level. So let's create this. We'll say, we'll call it deploy hosting.sh. And then we'll copy our shebang bin sh. And I'm going to copy a lot of this stuff actually. Did we finish over here? Nope, still working on it. Cool. So I am going to need to source the M because we're going to need those. We are going to need to log into Stitch, and so we'll just keep that. Okay. And then what we want to do is we want to export our project to a directory. So I'm going to copy from the export because we need to set up that directory. So let's go ahead, temp directory, dot, dot, dot. Actually, I've got a better one over here. So logging into Stitch, exporting to the temp directory, all of that stuff. Let's put it into here. Okay, so we're doing that thing again. Really, I don't think we need to go this far. I'm just gonna, I'm gonna get rid of that. And let's go directly to, we're gonna do it to a Stitch app hosting. So there's a different version than the template. And probably I should have called that one like Stitch app template. Who has time to like come up with names? Exporting to say hosting directory. These little echoes just make me happy as it's going along. And so we can get rid of all this stuff. So we're going to export our Stitch app, not as a template, so it's going to have all of our IDs and stick it in that Stitch hosting. And then when we're doing hosting, we actually have to go a step further and we have to set up the hosting file folder. And so I have a couple things that I will paste in here. So we need to make a directory in the Stitch hosting called hosting and files. So that command will create that. And then inside the hosting folder, we need a metadata.json file. And so what I'm doing is I'm just outputting an empty array into this new file because that's really what all it needs. And if we go back over to the Stitch hosting, oh, not that one. We can see what that file metadata can do. So, and so if we need to like specify content types for the files, most of the time it gets it right. So I haven't had to like do anything with that yet. So back over here. So now we have our files folder and we have our empty metadata JSON. So I am going to copy the contents of the build folder in the web UI, which hopefully that's done. Cool, so this is done. And if we look inside this folder here, the build folder, we have all of this. So all we have to do to deploy our app is to copy all of this up into Stitch hosting. And so that's what we're doing. So going to copy the build files. So let's grab this. Okay, and so we're going to copy everything from build into Stitch app hosting, hosting and files. I'm not, this is, if you're like, oh, you could be doing this a better way, you're probably right. I don't write scripts other than to be like dangerous and do quick things like this. Those will kind of help automate my process. And then we can import our stuff using the Stitch CLI. So down here, importing from hosting directory. And so this is where we're going to call the Stitch CLI with import. And we need to make sure that we include hosting because if you do a regular import, it's not going to grab those hosting files. Tell it the app ID, and so that's stored in my environment variable, and then give it the path for the app. And so we're using this app that's in this hosting right here. And then we can log out. So I'm going to put a couple more echoes. So we'll just do a Stitch CL logout, and we'll echo that it's complete. So this is kind of a very simple script that I wrote to kind of navigate deploying an application. So next, because this is a new file, let me find my terminal. So let's go up to the file, and you'll notice that deploy and export are red, and deploy hosting is not. That's because we have not made it executable yet. So I can chmod plus x deploy hosting to make that executable. And so if we do an ls again, you'll see that it's now red. And if I run this inside, we'll fingers crossed here. I'm going to run this deploy hosting. Okay. Deploy hosting script, and it should work. So we're logging into Stitch. Great, logged in as me. We're exporting the project file folder. This could take a few minutes. Still better than typing out all of these. And this folder that we are exporting, this is not a folder that I save to GitHub. So, you might want to put in a git ignore to make sure you don't add that to your repo. There's a lot of information in there. I mean, I guess you could. Yeah, you very well could. If it's an application that you don't, that's yours. Because I save everything as a template. That's what. Oh, sweet. Yeah. So I had a typo. So that's fun. I'm just gonna cancel that. I'm sure it's not gonna be happy, but. So down here where we are copying, setting up hosting, copying web UI build files, and that should be copy /web UI build. So I missed that. Save that. It's not going to skip those, so let's just go ahead and delete that and try again. Cool. All right. So let's run this again. We're logging into Stitch. Oh, I'm already logged in. Yeah, let's continue. So we're successfully logged in. We're exporting the project. Need to see if that, while we're doing this, let's refresh this. Cool. Okay, so here's our default. So we get a nice hello world index.html for right now. We're still exporting our hosting directory. Oh my, okay. Wow, I just keep typoing this. This is great. There should be a dot there. Or actually not a dot there. There should just be no slash. Wow. All right. The joy of doing things live and just messing up. Yeah, I'm gonna kill it. Bad, so bad. I hope I'm not like screwing up my app. I'm sure we're more resilient than that. Huh. All right. What is it they say? Third time is the charm. Except this time I'm going to do stitch CLI log out so it doesn't yell at me. Just play it again, Sam. Okay, successfully logged in. Anybody got any good jokes? This is where I would like go off and make some tea. Uh, I guess some people would get some coffee. Oh, look at this. Oh, we got further. So you can see over here that the Stitch app hosting file appeared, and we can expand that. And inside hosting, inside files, we've got all the information from the build folder, and we are importing from the hosting directory. So we'll give that a few seconds, few minutes, maybe not a few minutes, and then we'll go check out what's happening over in our console, in our Stitch admin console. Okay, so it does give you this nice little summary. So it's kind of giving you the difference here. So that's fine. Here's all the new files that we're uploading. Any of the modified files. So we already had an index.js up there, but we're overwriting it with the one from the build folder. And we'll just confirm this. Yep, that's great. Importing is done, importing hosting, and we've successfully imported. And logging out, and hosting is complete. So if we go over to our Stitch admin console and we refresh this, so let me just go over here and go back. You can see all of the files are now up there in the Stitch hosting. And so we can go over here and we'll refresh this. And it might not work the first time. And a little trick is you can go over to Actions and you can flush the CDN cache. Don't do that a lot. You can only do it 25 times per hour, but if you flush it, it makes it so you can see what's going on over here a lot quicker. Cool. Look at that. That's our app. So you didn't even know what that looked like, but I can tell you that's it. But one thing to keep in mind, this is now a different URL. And so if I were to try to do login with Gmail or Google, we get an issue. So this, our new URL is not an authorized redirect. And so to fix that, it's very easy. We just need to go into our users and modify our providers. So we need to modify Google here. And we need to add a redirect URI. And so I'm just going to add that and save. And because Facebook is on here and it also uses a redirect, we need to go back to providers and into Facebook and do the same thing. So right now it was only set up for local hosts, my local development. And so we'll save that one as well. And if we go back, and I think if we just refresh, it will forward us to Google, and then we'll return. And this, all it does is you log in, and then it will show you your user info. And so all of this info is being pulled from Google. So you can see you're logged in using OAuth to Google. So we can log out. Do I remember? I don't remember what email passwords I set up. But this is just, it's a good app to kind of see how authentication works and how you want to set up these different buttons. But now it's hosted, so that's cool. So people can get to it, live from this address. It's all being stored inside Stitch, right here, and that's how I updated it with that kind of simple script. So we could just delete that, and 16 lines of code, 15 even. And so that's what I wanted to kind of demonstrate today, was how to take an application and upload the build files to hosting. So this is pretty great for like kind of rounding out your whole app development. So you've got access to the database through Atlas. You can do a lot of stuff on the back end. With Stitch, you can take care of the authentication, and now you can even host your static files. So before you had to kind of decide where you wanted to do that, you could do it in like GitHub pages, and you still can. But this is a nice little option, and it will even allow you to do a custom domain. So cool. Um, I have nothing else, and so I will leave you. It's a ugly rainy day here in New York at the MongoDB office. I'm going to finish getting ready for our hackathon this weekend. If anybody happens to be there, make sure you say hi. Come get some MongoDB swag and try to do something cool with Stitch. Other than that, I will see everyone later. Um, bye.